channel. I am Lola AnnaBelle and welcome back. I just greeted you twice. If you're new here, we're still trying to figure out things. I like to talk about Harry Potter though. And I decided to go through the books chapter by chapter and give my thoughts and summary and just kind of go over the points we're still trying to figure out. This is my face. I was trying to do voiceovers. But we're just going to focus on the art when the art's done and so forth and so forth. We're just figuring things out. My Instagram is lol_Anna_Belle. You can follow me over there. I try to figure things out over there too. But I post more personal stuff over there too. So, also, I'm recording 2 videos with my face. Let's see the same look. Don't mind it. My son's at school and I don't want to change. The window's in front of me, so behind the camera. You can see the shadows and I can't figure out the lighting and like here. That does nothing. That makes things worse. Okay. So we're just not even sure if my overhead light does anything either. And also if you hear mumble. So where we left off is the students actually had arrived at Hogwarts. The first years got to ride in the boats across the lake and did the cool secret entrance thing. So that's fun. And so we're now Hagrid leaves the students to Professor McGonagall. And she explains that the houses will be like their homes. Good deeds will be rewarded, bad deeds will be given. Shadows with Lola. Okay. So there's a theory that, obviously you're going to have students that are muggle-born, but you're going to have kids with older siblings that have already been to Hogwarts. There's a theory that there's like a collective, like, that secret keeper spell upon everyone that's ever tried on the hat, and therefore, like, even incoming students don't know what the sorting process is like. And, Ron's gotten 4 swords from George and Fred, but I honestly think they're just being the twins and causing mischief and terrifying their little brother. And of course Hermione, rereading this again has really gotten me, like, part of me is just like, man, I really feel for Hermione. Like, we all know kids like that. They just want to please and do their best. Like, whether it's healthy or not. Like, I think in the end she kind of hones in that skill. And kind of gets out of her, I hate to say, bratty 11-year-old self. And just uses knowledge when it's useful to people versus, like, just kind of blathering out everything. So, yeah, so they're waiting. So they're off in like a little like hall type thing off the Great Hall, waiting for the ceremony to begin. And then she brings out the hat, and it's this rugged old wizard hat. And fun fact, my house is narrow, and so natural light is a blessing. So Hermione's like frightening about and going over all the spells she's like kind of learned over the summer. Leave down below your thoughts on wizard children and kids that aren't in school, if they're allowed to use magic or not. Because once they enter school, their wands are tracked, and they know if they do magic outside of school. How are they supposed to practice over the summer? Like, or is that allowed? Because there's like stories of Lily coming home and turning teacups into like rats or vice versa. We finally get into the Great Hall for the ceremony. The ceiling's enchanted to look like the night sky, and there's candles floating. I'm sure to any student arriving, it's like just magical. And also, the ghosts are coming, and they come up from the floor, which I'm sure if you're a muggle born and weren't expecting that, or like I'm sure it's a little terrifying, and they're arguing about accepting Peeves and all that. And Peeves is a poltergeist, and the way that Rowling has written it is poltergeists are energy that's like left over in a place. That's what creates the poltergeist. And of course, you're at school. There's class clowns in every class causing mischief and all that. And so that is Peeves. What the school was founded in the 1600s. So at this point, like 300 plus years of tomfoolery from students is Peeves. And it made me think, I wonder when Peeves actually first started showing up. How many years of students and tomfoolery did this take to show up? The hat is sit on a stool. It starts singing its song. And of course, if you've read the books and the movies, which is why you're here and listening to my ramblings, thank you. It goes, "Oh, you may not think I'm pretty, but don't judge on what you see. I'll eat myself if you can't find a smarter hat than me. You can keep your bowlers black and your top hat sleek and tall, for I'm the Hogwarts Train hat. I can cap them all. There's nothing hidden in your head. There's the sorting hat can't see. So try me, and I will tell you where you ought to be. You might belong in Gryffindor, where you dwell the brave of heart, the daring and clevery set the Gryffindors apart. You might belong in Hufflepuff, where you're just and loyal. Those patient and Hufflepuffs are true and unafraid of toil. Or yet and wise of old Ravenclaw, you've already mind, where those that are wit and learning will always find their kind. Or perhaps in Slytherin, you'll make your real friends. Those cunning folk use any means to achieve their ends. So put me on, don't be afraid, and don't get in a flop if you're safe hands those I have none, for I'm a thinking cat." Also, we find out later that the hat makes up its own song every year. It like sits on Dumbledore's shelves and board. Well, it's like I wonder if like Gryffindor if Dumbledore converses with the hat at all. So the students are sorted one by one, and Hermione and Ron are in Gryffindor. Malfoy is immediately placed in Slytherin for when the hat barely touches his head. Harry sits down, and I don't think Harry was a hat stall. I think Neville was almost a hat stall, which I think, and I don't know if Minerva was a hat stall or if she was almost a hat stall. And a hat stall is pretty much when the hat can't decide for, I think, 5+ minutes what house you belong in. But Harry's having this conversation with the hat. And he really doesn't want to be in Slytherin. And probably because he's heard stories of Slytherin. And he doesn't want to be in Slytherin. And I think that is interesting. And there's a conversation with Dumbledore about him choosing wanting to be in Gryffindor and not in Slytherin, and the hat putting him in Gryffindor, even though the hat thinks that he would be great in Slytherin. And you think when Voldemort tried to kill him that he embodied part of his soul into Harry. Not on purpose, I don't think. I mean, of course not, he was trying to kill a child. Essentially killed his parents. So is this in Voldemort was in Slytherin also, and they're two different people where Harry was upfront of what he wanted and Voldemort just went with it. Even though he probably could have. Also, I think he knew maybe that his family was in Slytherin. Not positive. Also, you have two dynamic characters. Voldemort was not conceived out of love, and Harry was. And that always is an interesting, like, thought and dynamic. And I don't think, the fact that I think when parents want a child and love a child, that love is there. And if a child's not wanted, you also get that. Deep thoughts here. Okay. So Harry sits down with the Gryffindors and he's near Percy. And the clouds are back. Am I going to turn off my lights? Probably. We made it a little bit. Okay. And, Harry gives him a thumbs up because Harry's the closest. But then he looks over and he sees, like, Percy acknowledges Snape, and then he also acknowledges, and Harry recognizes Quirrell in the turban, and that's when Harry's scar hurts, and it's mentioned that his scar would hurt every now and then, but never, like, intensely, and this was the first time that it hurt, and we all know that Quirrell had Voldemort back of his head under that turban. And that's why it hurt, because Harry was near Voldemort. So the food finally appears in front of him. And of course he says that, like, the nurse just never starved him, but also Dudley always took the food that Harry wanted. So just probably out of spite, because he could, and Dudley's parents let him. We're on chapter 7. If you've not heard me, I am cynical to Dursleys. More cynical than I was when I first read these at 11. And the food disappears and desserts appear of all sorts, and he has a chicken tart. And Dumbledore stands up and makes his announcements about, and then, like, he mentions that the third quarter on the right side is off limits. Don't go in there. And Percy kind of, like, mentions to Harry, he's like, this is weird. Like, usually when places in the castle or the grounds are off limits, there's a very good reason, and it's told to students so they understand why it's, off limits. And he goes on about how it's like everyone is forces filled with dangerous creatures and don't go in there, and that's an understanding. So, and he's like, it's like I'm surprised they would not mention it to the first years. So they stand up and do their the song, and it's interesting to note that the song, well, the lyrics appear in the air by Dumbledore for the students to follow along, but there's no actual tune to the song, and I don't think the song was in the movies. There's a lot of interesting things I've been picking up, and I haven't watched the movies in a while, that I'm just like, oh, that's an interesting turn of, like, Harry is actually a lot smarter. And same with Ron than the movies make them out. The movies kind of make them out as kind of like dumb teenage boys, and they're really not. So anyway, the song goes, Hogwarts, Hogwarts, Hoggy Hogwarts, teach us something, please. Whether we be old and bold or young and scabby knees, our head could do with filling with some interesting stuff. For now, they're bare and full of air, dead flies, and bits of fluff. So teach us things worth knowing. Bring us back what we forgot. Just do your best, we'll do the rest, and learn until our brains all rot. I know I typed this. I read it. I'm like, this song is kind of rude and mean. Anyway, of course, the Weasleys are the last one to finish, and they're singing an old, March song that draws out forever. And so by then, I'm kind of doing the math in my head. They don't give times in this book, and that's fine, but we've all been to events and had long days like this, and or dinner probably started at like 7 o'clock, I imagine. And so by the time everything's done, it's probably close to like 9:30, 10. And these kids have been on the train like for hours. They probably had to get up early. Can someone please explain to me? I think Hogwarts is in Scotland. It's in the mountains. And the train leaves out of London. And it's the only train that takes the students to Hogwarts. Like, if students came from that far away, are there multiple trains? Are there trains that take the students to London? Is this written somewhere on Pottermore, the Wizarding World? Someone, if you know the answer, I would love to hear it. I just thought of that. So students are following Percy and the other prefect. And they're going up and down stairs and through passages, and Harry's just tired not to really be in awe and wonder. I don't blame you. You're full of food. You're tired. You're 11 years old. Man, I'm tired thinking about this. But before they get to the dormitories, they encounter Peeves. I think room 6, and Percy's going back and forth with him and threatening him to send him to the Bloody Bear and all that, and he's the Bloody Bear is the only one that scare Peeves. I'm not even gonna say knock sense on Peeves because that's not possible. So, and finally Peeves gets out of the way and all that, and then they finally get to the fat lady, and I didn't write down the password, but the password, and she swings open, and it's like a little tunnel thing, and it leads into the Gryffindor common room, and Harry kind of realizes that they're up in one of the towers, which is cool. Also, I wonder, because there's 7 years in Hogwarts, and I just kind of wonder if there's 7 rooms or areas for each boy, the boys and the girls, and whether that's you get that room, your year gets that room, and then so forth and so forth. I'm curious, and I'm sure the prefects have their own separate room. I'm not sure. Get into their beds, and Ron's out for Harry could even ask him about if he had the triple chart or not. It's just kind of cute. But something that wasn't in the movie. So in the movies, Harry's sitting on the windowsill with Hedwig, just kind of looking out and just content is the best word too. But in the movies, he's stalking Quirrell's turban. The book leaves off with Harry having a feverish dream of being stuck in Quirrell's turban, and much better. And he just there's an argument that he should have been a Slytherin, and Harry's fighting it. And I think it's clever that it's not so much in the movies, but Voldemort's making his presence known a little bit. Not not like it's Voldemort, but with Harry and his scar hurting and dreams, it's already because collective memory. My friends and I have talked about this. You think not light, but it's like a happy-go-lucky series for at least the first 2 books. Harry Potter gets dark real quick. And by quick, I mean by the end of the first book, it gets dark. It starts getting dark. So, yeah. Anyway, that's the end of chapter 7 of the Sorcerer's Stone. Thank you for listening to my thoughts. I really appreciate you being here. And once again, I'm going to be recording chapter 8 after this. You'll see me in the same outfit. I am toddler free right now. We are going to try to be as productive, kid free today as humanly possible. I appreciate you. Until next time, stay safe. Gosh, I have not done this outro in a while. Stay safe, be strong. I love you. I am Lola, AnnaBelle. Bye.